The Naked Gun, the latest Neeson film and the first outright comedy. I think he's done, I think, right?
I would think so. But yeah, I mean, this is directed by Kiva Schaffer, starring Liam Neeson, Pamela Anderson, Paul Walter Hauser. Quick logline: only one man has the particular set of skills to lead police squad and save the world. I love that the description is sort of a rip off on the Taken
That's great.
description. Pretty
Yeah.
great. But I guess before we get into this movie, what is your relationship with the Naked Gun franchise? Had you seen those movies before?
Yeah, yeah. So this that franchise and then also that type of like the Zucker Abrams humor
Spoof.
was the spoof, but also just this silly like Airplane, Top
Yeah.
Secret,
Hot
Basketball,
Shots.
right? Hot Shots, Part Deux, UHF. I know that's not theirs, but falls into that same type of humor. Was my thing as a kid. I love that silly, goofy humor. So I'd seen all the Naked Gun movies, all the other ones we mentioned. Best, definitely more of a fan of Naked Gun 2 was always my favorite one. And Leslie Nielsen was just one of the funniest guys ever. Like, especially as a
Right.
kid, like growing up in the 90s, like he was the biggest comedy star, especially for children, because these movies were so silly. Even though they had
Hmm.
more to them, they weren't just like silly stupid. They were very silly smart, and that's what makes
Yeah.
the Zuckers and Abrams so talented. But no, I was a huge fan of these movies and this aesthetic, and it's been sad to see, just as a fan of this type of film, that genre get kind of run into the ground by cheap sort of spoofs and not any intelligent comedy like
Right.
all those movies they call them, epic movie, romance movie, not another teen movie. All these things I think ran that whole concept and that genre actually into the ground. And I was hesitant to see when they were going to be resurrecting it. Like, would it be as bad as those movies, as good as the original Naked Gun? Are they going to change the humor at all? And casting Neeson's in it was interesting. So yeah, that was sort of my background on this whole. I was definitely excited to see a return of this genre if that's what this movie is, and we'll get into my thoughts on it in a second. But
Yeah.
yeah, what about you? What are your Naked Gun takes, or just again
Yeah.
this whole kind of aesthetic?
Yeah, no, same pretty much. I mean, these kind of movies hit us at the right age, right?
Yeah.
So I remember so many college dorm nights, like these movies playing on people's computers, and there's a silliness, but the cleverness, but also like a sexiness to these movies too, which,
Hmm.
hits you really hard when you're at that in that age group, if you will. So, and a good fun time,
Oh
that
yeah.
they're great hangout movies in my mind. Whether you're watching it in your dorm room or you're going to the theater and laughing out loud and you know what you're gonna get, but they were never like asinine, which to me is pretty important. And I even rewatched some of them in preparation for, this movie coming out. And at least the first one, I didn't watch the second and third one of Naked Gun. It still holds up,
Oh yeah.
I was very hesitant. I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know how this would feel. I haven't watched these movies in, I don't know, 15 years, 20 years, but it totally holds up. Also, movies from that time, because they spend money and they probably shot them on film, it looks great, right? Like that's
Hmm.
the other thing. And I think the key aspect of that is that the protagonist in this case, uh, what's the director's name? Bredden? No.
Oh man, Dick Drebin.
Yes.
Yeah.
Uh, he is so serious and so committed to what he's doing. And I think that's a key aspect of everything else that's kind of going goofy and crazy around him. And
Right.
it's just so hilarious, so good. But yeah, with the new one, to kind of get
Yeah.
into that a little bit, yeah, I was very hesitant because we are living in a world of, massive reboot, reheat stuff. Like I feel like every week I find out a new movie that's being rebooted.
Hmm.
So which, always gives me a little bit of pause because either they're going to botch what existed before, or I'm always like, can't you do something new and, be actually really creative? That said, when I saw the trailer of Liam Neeson in it, that's what kind of piqued my interest in a positive way. I'm like, oh my gosh, like this makes sense to me. Like that they would cast him, especially coming off of all the Taken movies and all the movies that you mentioned that he's been doing. Like it makes total sense. And so that was like, oh, that's positive. So it was overall, I would say I'm just happy that big screen comedies were people can go in droves and have a laugh out loud great time are back in the theaters. So, and in my theater was like hooting and hollering. Some people I felt like they're gonna die. I was like, "Are you okay? Like this is a little much." But for me personally, I, I don't think it meets the charm and the wit of the original Naked Gun movies. There are moments where you get that, but I think there's a lot of other stuff happening with like special effects and things that maybe get a little too silly that kind of take, I mean, I still laughed, but I think what is more amusing and more funny about the original ones is that the main guy is self-serious and everything around him is it's crazy and silly, but it's also very controlled. It never goes so far out there that it's unbelievable, you know? It sort of feels very believable. That said, I mean, there's so many great gags. Like I love the gag with the coffees showing up,
That was
over and over
amazing.
again.
Yeah.
I thought Pamela Anderson, even though they didn't do much with her character per se, I wish there was more of her, but she gets some really standout moments. Like
Hmm.
not to go into spoiler territory, but she has this scene where she's like singing, sorta.
Yeah.
That was my favorite moment of the entire movie, actually, because it was just so clever and funny. And then I think some of the line, like the writing and the line delivery with both of them, where they're so pinheaded and serious about what they do. So lines like, "Oh, take a chair," and she's like, "I have plenty of chairs at home."
Yeah.
This sort of stuff makes me really laugh, as opposed to some like fantastical thing. Um, and then the second last thing I would say is that I'm sort of bored of the tech billionaire villain person idea. I'm like, okay, we need to move on. We need to find something else. So that stuff sort of like, okay, sure, And then I guess to talk about Liam, which I should have led with, I think he's great in the movie. Like he totally fits the mold and he has a lot to do, and it just felt very natural for him to be in this part. A part of me also felt like maybe this is what Liam Neeson is in real life. I don't know. Of course, I don't know the guy, but
Yeah.
not that he's a bumbling idiot, but like you were saying earlier, somebody who's rebellious with like a twinkle in his eye, kind of gets the job done, knows what's really going on, but has his own way of going about it, which is what this character is. So, I love that, and I love his chemistry with all the other people that he's interacting with, including Pam. Like they have real, genuine chemistry in the movie,
Oh,
which is
definitely.
so great to see. I will say, I think this is not his thing, but more of the movie. Like because of the special effects, some of the action gags and things that are happening. At times, I felt like Liam was maybe a little bit slower than all the madness around him. I almost felt like the movie around him was a little bit more, not grounded because it's all a farce, but more in the tonality of the original movies. Because I think Liam is playing that. Like he's in the movies from the original movies, I think, as opposed to some of the madness that is happening here. So I felt like a little bit of dissonance there at times. But I had a great time at the theater. I was not the one of the ones who was choking on my popcorn watching this. I mean, people were really eating this up, but I had a great time, and I'm glad this exists, and I'm glad people are having a good time with it.
Yeah, yeah. I think I thought the movie was great, and Neeson. It was interesting, much like with Leslie Nielsen, who was brought into Airplane, the sort of the beginning of this type of humor as a serious actor, and they asked him to be funny. I love that they did cat when in
Yeah,
thinking about restarting the Naked Gun franchise, they went with an actor who was not known for comedy and put him in this to see kind of what would happen and in the same way they did with Leslie Nielsen and Airplane. So that I thought actually was very inspired casting. I thought Liam Neeson did a fantastic job. He was very, very funny. Also, like you could kind of buy that he's because of his giant frame, sort of buy that he's a cop and in the action that he had to do. Obviously, he is an action star, so that was very believable. But he's very good at because I think so good at the physical action. He's also very good at physical comedy. Because the
yeah,
great thing about these movies is they have sort of a mix of all these different types of comedy. There's like physical comedy, gags, wordplay, all these sort
Yeah.
of things. And I think Liam Neeson could do all of it, honestly. And I thought it was a very good honoring the Leslie Nielsen performance while not also trying to copy it. I felt that
Yeah.
Leslie Nielsen's Drebin was he did a lot more like mugging in a good way, mugging, like pulling funny faces and sort of being like more ac- very expressively goofy in certain situations, which actually I like a lot. Like
Yeah.
I
He's
think he
great.
does a better job than Neeson if I had to choose between the two. But Neeson wasn't trying to do the same thing. He was bringing kind of his own spin to it and trying to ground a little bit of his character a bit more that I thought was good. Like he didn't try to go the exact route that Leslie Nielsen went, which I thought was great. I mean, I alluded to this in the very beginning of the movie, or episode. I think Liam Neeson is probably the one of the weakest actors when it comes to accents, like ever. He just can't ever do any accent whatsoever. And in this movie, especially, for some reason, it felt like he was in physical pain trying to hold back his Irish accent. Like it was so like, I'm trying to not, speak
Yeah.
American. I thought that actually, I don't think that was part of a joke. I just found that really funny too, how he's like painfully trying to like hold together like any kind of accent that wasn't his Irish. But hey, that
It
actually kind of
works.
funny. Exactly. It was actually kind of funny. And it's crazy to think someone made this point in a review that I was reading that he's actually older than Leslie Nielsen was in the first Naked Gun movie, which is crazy to think about too. Like he's older by like 5 or 8 years or something, which is crazy. But yeah, so I thought Liam Neeson did a great job in this movie. And for the movie itself, I just thought it was great. It was definitely one of the funniest movies I've seen in a theater in a long time, probably not since like 22 Jump Street, which is probably over like 10 years ago now.
That's a good one.
Yeah, it's another great film, but I just love that it is doing the same thing the original was doing and nothing else. It's got the same type of that like silly humor, the pace of the jokes, like every 5 seconds there's another joke happening, another joke happening, another joke happening. The classic Zucker stuff too of like jokes happening in the background while characters in the foreground. Like I love that. There's this one moment where they're walking to the police station and the police officer had arrested these like little kids with their lemonade stand, sort of like walking by and like that is just so I don't know, just like those little sort of visual gags I thought was really funny, and they did again a great job of mixing the taking things seriously while having humor in it as well. And I definitely was several scenes. I don't eat popcorn in movies, but I was proverbially choking on my popcorn. I love the line that I there were two lines I thought there were my favorites. One was a line where Liam Neeson's getting framed in this particular scene, and he has this line about like I feel like I'm an idiot's completed jigsaw puzzle about to be framed. And I don't know, for some reason that joke amazing. And then the Bill Cosby joke
Oh
was the one that
yeah.
like my entire theater was absolutely dying. And that was also great physical comedy from Pamela Anderson, which is like
Yeah.
spinning the drink back into the glass. So
Yeah.
that was also very ballsy of like okay, like a Bill Cosby joke. That
Yeah.
was great. And the whole Black Eyed Peas scene too, I thought was fantastic. Let's get retarded in here. And then they're doing
Yeah.
the whole Black Eyed Peas thing. I thought that was great. So yeah, overall, I had a really fun time with this film. They updated the right things and they left the classic stuff classic. And I hope means that studios and Hollywood will be more amenable to showing actual comedies in the movie theater too. What I guess one final point on that too. I just like I don't need to have heart in a comedy. I don't need to have character development. I don't need to have like some emotional moment where it's like, oh, now they're
No.
just give me jokes. I just want
Just
to. I
give me
don't dump
jokes. I
all that
totally
stuff.
agree.
I think the dramedy has taken over the modern comedy, and comedies now have to have a point and a message and character development. And I'm just sort of sick of that, to be honest. I just want
Yeah.
to go into a theater and see like people keep getting coffee handed to them. And the one time they get the giant coffee cups they get, like, I just want that. Like, I don't need all this other,
This
dump all the other stuff out. Give me a funny movie. And that's what this movie was, which is why I thought it was so special and just so well executed. I got to give it up to the filmmakers too, because the original guys weren't involved at all. They
no.
actually kind of distanced themselves from the project, which was interesting. And I get it. I don't know why they have their reasons or whatever, but I think the filmmakers did a fantastic job of capturing this type of silly humor, which is one of my favorite types of comedy.
Yeah, I agree. And like I was saying earlier, like I would go as far as saying that don't even have special effects or any of that. Like just make it about the jokes,
Oh,
and make it more practical and such, like which it would just make it even more tactile, and And I love that aspect of it. The other thing I want to mention also is like a length of the movie, like was so great. Like this is
Oh yeah.
like an hour and a half, or even less than that, I think. Yeah, hour and a half, an hour 25.
Yeah,
So
right.
it's perfect, right? Like that's the kind of length you want for a movie like this. And I was reflecting on this morning that it's been a while that you could go out, watch a movie and then have dinner and then be back home and at like a respectable time, that's what
Right.
we people used to do,
Yeah.
and there's something about that kind of packaging like a neat little evening out where you've had a good time and then a good meal and then you're back home, as opposed to all these other things. And will I think about this movie much more than what I did, yesterday? Probably not. And that's okay, but yeah, it sounds like you loved it more than I did,
Yeah,
but
I
I
really
still
liked
had
it.
a really,
Yeah.
really good time, I would
Yeah,
say.
I had a great time, and I guess you're right. Like kudos to the length thing too, because I think the Judd Apatow 2.5 hour comedy era is hopefully over. And even at the time, I always kind of thought that was a bit of a drag. Like that guy just would stuff so many things in his films and release unedited cuts later that were well
Mm-mm.
over 2 hours and 40 minutes. I'm like, just come on, we're done. We're done with that. That era is done. We're back to a tight 90 minute, just like joke after joke after joke. The other sequence I just want to call out too was not to get too much into spoilers of the jokes too, but the snowman sequence. I thought that was incredible, but also that was the one part of the movie I felt that did feel like a modern conceit of comedy. Like the rest of the movie, all the jokes, like even the ones I was just talking about, the Bill Cosby one, the Fergie stuff, that felt like it could have been in the original Naked Gun. It was the
Mm.
comedy of that time. In a way, I'm not knocking that. I think that's what I wanted to see. But that sequence to me, which was incredible, and also that the one part of the audience was like people were having conniptions in the aisles. That did feel much like a Tim and Eric style comedy or something from Adult Swim from like 2015,
Right.
or I don't know if you ever seen that famous skit, Too Many Cooks. That was a digital skit from about 10 years ago. It felt like that type of humor. And I actually
Mm.
liked that the rest of the movie wasn't trying to give you like 2025 type of humor. It was just going back to this original Naked Gun style gags, except for that one sequence, but it still really worked. Like
Yeah.
it still didn't feel misplaced or out of sorts or like not honoring what the original Naked Gun franchise was about, but added a little bit more some modern sensibilities into it. But I like that the rest of the movie wasn't that, and they didn't try to update really anything. They're like, hey, look, this other than the look of it, I think they were trying to go with a take on like late 90s, early 2000s action movies versus the original
Yeah.
Naked Guns, which were obviously based on a TV show, Police Squad, but the Police
Right.
Squad TV show was based on like 70s and 60s cop sort of dramas, so it had that aesthetic. So I do like that they updated the aesthetic a little bit, but that the humor, other than the snowman sequence, sort of remained the same. And also, too, the one thing that I know you said that the synopsis on IMDb had that Taken joke in there, but what I thought was great because I was a little worried about this is that they would do that in the film. There was no
Yeah, there's
references
no
to
mention of winking.
no winking about Taken, no winking about Liam Neeson being in these other films like, Schindler's List or Qui-Gon. Like, they easily could have done that. And I could see in lesser filmmaker hands, they would do that. They'd be like, oh, yeah, look, let's do a Taken knockoff scene or let's do a commuter or the gray or it's like no they just were like no we're not a parody movie that is just going to parody
Yeah.
everything like those bad movies I was referencing from the 2000s but no we're going to stick with what they did in the Naked Gun films which yeah there's sometimes there were parodies like in the third one to the step sequence from the De Palma film Untouchables, but
Mm.
they weren't parody films in that sense. They were more these spoof films. But I thought that was just
I couldn't
incredible
agree
restraint,
more.
and I
Yeah.
love that.
And
I was honestly like,
yeah.
oh god, if they do, when are they going to do a Taken joke? I know they're going to do one. When is it coming? Do not touch it. I loved it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree. I mean, this is the problem with movies, I mean, the superhero movies have really brought this kind of sensibility, right? Of like
Right, right. Hmm.
self-knowing and really winking and in my mind, the movie sort of stops in its tracks when you do that because now you've taken the viewer out of the movie and the viewer is thinking about Liam Neeson in the Taken movies. They're not thinking about your movie, right?
Right.
So or whatever pop culture gag you have, they're thinking about that. So I don't know why they keep doing that. And I'm so glad they didn't because in a movie like this, that would have been even worse because the movie is sort of pitched at a higher frequency anyway. And on
Right.
top of that, if you do that, then yeah, you're out, I think. So Yeah, no, that was really smart. Also, the last thing I want to say is that it's good and fun to see. I don't know how else to put it, but people sort of looking their age, even though they both look really good for their age. But it's good to see we don't have that, people who are older, they don't look old. Who looks old in the movies? No one looks old.
Right.
So, and still look good. And I don't know, there's something about the two of them, the way they look and their chemistry. It's a big part of that. And Liam's character, like Drebin is an older guy, and um Leslie Nielsen famously had these, you know, platinum blonde hair, which
Hmm.
adds a sense of gravitas and is part of the character that you look at this person and you think, oh, they know what they're doing.
Hmm.
And actually they don't, but they do,
Right.
So
Right.
I love that aspect of that there's somebody who's a little bit grizzled, has been out there, earned his badges, if you will.
Totally. And even the age pairing between Pam
Yeah.
Anderson and Liam Neeson too. I
Yeah,
think that
both.
casting an actress like Pamela Anderson, who isn't necessarily even really known for comedy either,
Or
as much
acting.
or acting, yeah. Which actually I think she did a fantastic job in this.
She's
I'm like, oh,
great. I think she stole the movie in my mind.
maybe she should have a career in comedy, and that was her mistake all this time trying to do these other things.
Yeah.
But I just like that it was more of an age appropriate relationship where obviously they weren't trying to make her look younger than she was either. I think you're totally right, and that kind of goes back, I guess, to the original Naked Gun movies too. I mean, it's not like Priscilla Presley was some 20-year-old, who was with Liam Neeson. So, or sorry,
Leslie
Leslie
Nielsen.
Nielsen. So, maybe they're going a little bit back to that. And I did love her cameo in the film. And then
That was
there was
great.
some good subtle. I don't know if you caught, and when they went into the jazz club, and there was the stuffed beaver in the front. So like
Oh
from
yeah.
the nice beaver scene in the Naked Gun. So there were
Yeah.
little like references here and there, but they also weren't trying to lift whole sequences or make too many references, which I also like too. I thought that creatively this movie just nailed it. Like the writers and the director behind this, just everything I thought was spot on. And I hope this means a whole new Naked Gun franchise and maybe a return to comedy, real comedy, not comedies where I'm supposed to cry at a scene or something like that. Real comedies back in theaters again. That would be great.
Meaning you don't want the bear as the comedy.
I don't.
Sure.
No, I
Yeah.
don't. No, I
Yeah.
don't. I think comedy
Not a
should be
comedy.
funny. Hey, so if you like that video, make sure you click the link below. That's our full discussion about not only the Naked Gun movie, but also about Liam Neeson, where we cover his career and our favorite movies, classics like Schindler's List and Taken, and of course, Key and Peele's favorite, Darkman. Also, if you like our discussion, make sure to subscribe because every other week, Karan and I review the latest movie in theaters and then talk about a actor or director who made that film and why that actor or director is important to us and the different films that we love of theirs. So hopefully see you in the next video.